Hi, I'm Hafiz, and welcome back to Agree to Disagree. We've done a couple of episodes now covering social issues that we think plagues our generation. And based on what we've covered and haven't covered so far, can you guess what I'm gonna talk about today? That's right, we're talking about race. Did you answer race because you see that I'm Malay? That's implicit bias. I'm just messing around. But seriously, racism.
It's a predatory. You are so stupid.
I mean, who can forget some of these extremely disturbing, overtly racist acts? And yes, I use the term overtly because there's nothing subtle about a flying kick and racist slurs. And most people online agreed. But there were other cases that were a little more grey area and up for debate. Now, you guys remember the 𝔸𝕘𝕣𝕣𝕖𝕖 incident? As a Malay myself, I personally don't see it as a clear case of outright racism. What I think is that it's an act of being uninformed. After so many years of racial harmony and nation building, still cannot differentiate between a Malay wedding and a Hari Raya, is it? Hey, then paiseh lah, you all. Let me tell you, people can be clueless, but it doesn't mean that they are racist. And I know some of you watching will be thinking, how can a Malay say this? He going against his own people, is it? Truthfully, that's just how I think. It's impossible to know everything, and if we got mad at every single thing, we'd be nowhere close to tackling racism. But you know what I find really interesting about this incident compared to others? We are all pretty split on what we thought about it. Some people found it racist.
Others didn't think it counted as racism. Some others couldn't even begin to understand why this might be considered racist, while others were completely confused that some didn't see this as racist.
Everyone suddenly had just my 2 cents to add to the conversation. We are all at very different points in understanding racism. Yes, we can all agree that racism is a problem that plagues our society and we need to solve it. But what we can't seem to figure out, and that is integral to the resolution of racism, is what counts as racist. But first, let me quickly dish out some definitions that can help guide us for the rest of this video. No need to read out lah, you all pause and read, okay? Interestingly, Merriam-Webster updated their definition in 2020 to include... Now that we know what we're talking about, let's start arguing! One argument, two sides. It's Hafiz versus Hafiz! Look, it's really clear-cut. Whether or not an act or a comment is racist, all boils down to intention. What was the driving factor, motivation as to why some things were said or carried out? You all remember Biao Tan? Tan Biao-hyong made headlines in mid-2021 for making derogatory race remarks against other train commuters and was later found to have a whole YouTube account dedicated to her pursuit of insulting individuals from the minority race.
Never mix around you guys because you are vastly different.
Clearly, her comment came from a place of malice. There was intention to incite feelings of ill will or harm. So Biao Tan, racist. On the other hand, the intention behind the team that committed the 𝔸𝕘𝕣𝕖𝕖 cutout standing hiccup, it's hard to say whether they were being malicious. I mean, can you imagine anyone from the team sitting in a meeting room and plotting? Okay, so this year, I want to make the Malay community really upset. So this is my grand plan. Like I said, uninformed lah. It's damn clear-cut. No intention, not racist. Intention, racist. Hey Hafiz, you really think that the world operates in black and white, is it? Intention equals racist, no intention equals not racist. You're so damn naive lah, please. If anything, years of racial harmony education and living in a multiracial society has conditioned us to grow tolerant towards each other. Meaning, chances of overtly racist acts occurring are few and far between. Therefore, it is too reductive to judge whether or not an act is racist if we only went with the official definition of racism. Instead, what likely happens more often are acts of microaggressions. Back to the 𝔸𝕘𝕣𝕖𝕖 incident. Copyright issue aside, the innocent blunder is in fact disregard for Malay culture. When you are ignorant towards how individuals in your community live, you're telling them that they don't matter and that your own way of life is superior to theirs. I'll show you an example.
Where are you from? Your English is perfect.
San Diego. We speak English there.
It's disrespectful and it's a microaggression. Even closer to home, let me share with you my personal encounter with microaggression. When I was teaching drama classes at a primary school, I had to report at 7 AM a couple of days in the week. Now, I personally like to turn up early to things, But there was this other teacher who made a joke ever so often about my punctuality and how it was very un-Malay of me.
What did he say?
Because Malay always late, right? Now, did that comment cause me to lose my right foot, my life savings and my house? No. But it certainly did a number on my esteem. And why? Considering that I had done nothing wrong, why was I suddenly questioning my own level of responsibility and feeling like I had something to apologize for? You see, that's the thing about microaggressions. They are not outrightly criminalizing, but the effects they can have are long-lasting and can really affect a person's mental and physical health. Researchers found that racial microaggressions are linked to low self-esteem,
Increased stress levels, anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts.
Other studies found that people who experience microaggressions are more likely to report stomach aches,
Headaches, sleep disturbances, and high blood pressure.
You hear that? This means my terrible stomach ache from consuming dairy could be the result of living through a microaggression and not that I'm lactose intolerant. Okay, but here's another important fact. Humans are natural groupies. We gravitate towards the same kind and it's obvious to us when someone is different. Take it from this study done by researchers at the Nanyang Technological University. Children as young as 3 are racist. I'm kidding. But seriously, the research shows that preschool children here can develop racial preferences or implicit bias by the age of 3, especially if they belong to the majority race. And again, we're not saying any type of biases are excusable, but implicit biases or thoughts about people you didn't know you had occur quite naturally. So instead of jumping to cancel people and institutions for their innocent blunders, I think it's way more constructive for us to have calm discussions on our natural biases and challenge the way that frames the stereotypes we have of other communities. Because to label something as racist is actually super counterproductive. Nobody thinks they're the bad guy and nobody thinks they're racist. Taken from this article by the New York Times, very few people are stupid or irredeemably mean. Even if it was borderline racist and mean, the person who committed the mistake isn't going to go,
You're right, it's racist.
and it's true. I mean, touch your heart right now. Would you say your next door neighbor is a bad person because she made a comment about how Malays, for example, get married young? Sure, it's problematic, but screaming racist in her face isn't going to help her understand why that comment is an issue in the first place. We should be pointing out mistakes to be used as learning points instead of criminalizing a person. Well, I'm not saying there's no room to make honest mistakes. Mistakes are how we learn. But there's a disproportionate difference between those who make these mistakes and those who suffer the microaggression. Brent Hughes, lead author on the study in this article, implied that since minorities are more exposed to the majority than the other way around, they are also more likely to face a microaggression. Okay, then how? I think we can definitely agree there are things that need to be worked on. But honestly, sometimes it can be so tricky. When I want to ask something, I don't even know how to approach a subject. I'm so afraid of saying the wrong thing. How then would we be able to negotiate what's offensive and what's not without getting cancelled? And I know I'm not the only one who echoes this sentiment. In OGS informal survey with viewers, you guys told us, I don't think I've ever seen a productive conversation on race, so I'm not even sure what it looks like. Jalan. For starters, I think we've done a pretty good job at having a level-headed conversation. But here's a little guide. Recognize your prejudice. No one is completely prejudiced or not at all. It's a spectrum, and everyone possesses stereotypes to some degree. Learn about other people. You can read books, watch movies, or even follow pages like these that describe the minority community's lived experiences. And lastly, it is not about you. When a racist act has occurred, remember, the focus should be on the person on the receiving end of it, not you. So, a lot has been discussed in this episode, and I think something doesn't have to be intentional to be deemed as racist. Microaggressions are more divisive than we think. But the boundaries of what counts as racism is and will always be a constant conversation. So at the end of the day, what's important is that we have to figure this out as a generation of individuals who will not stand for injustice together. I have faith. Do you? What counts as racism to you? Is cultural insensitivity excusable? And more importantly, what would you like to see our nation and society do in their attempts in addressing racism? Comment down below.